following program was definitely pre-recorded. You're listening to K-Squid 90.7 FM, KSQD Santa Cruz, and KSQT Prunedale. My name is John Malkin. Today you'll hear an interview with Terri Lyne Carrington, jazz drummer, band leader, educator, and author who grounds her projects in feminism, spiritual liberation, and the movement to abolish prisons and police. Her latest album is New Standards Volume 1, and it received the 2023 Grammy for Best Instrumental Jazz Album. It's a companion to Carrington's book New Standards, 101 Lead Sheets by Women Composers. That was released in 2022. These projects were inspired by Carrington's realization that the go-to book for jazz musicians, the Jazz Reel book, contained very few songs by women composers. Terri Lyne Carrington will be performing at the Monterey Jazz Festival on Sunday, September 24th. Later that day, she'll be at the Pacific Jazz Cafe in a panel discussion on the abolition of police and prisons with Angela Davis and Gina Dent. Carrington works closely with Davis and Dent as curator for the Music for Abolition project of the UCSC Institute for the Arts and Sciences. The acclaimed drummer is also founder and artistic director of the Berklee Institute of Jazz and Gender Justice. Here now is Terri Lyne Carrington. Congratulations on receiving the Grammy for the New Standards Volume 1. That is very wonderful and exciting.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was quite excited myself.
I can imagine. And I know that project, I listened to the album and it's really beautiful and has quite a variety of songs and vocal styles and rhythms, and I enjoyed it a lot. And I know it has a lot of meaning too. Part of it comes from you taking a closer look at jazz and the real jazz book and noticing how many women were included in that. That's, kind of the standard book that jazz musicians go to. How many women were included in that?
I'm not sure 100% because there's so many different volumes of that book. I know that just as far as the go-to songs, there weren't very many. Anne Ronell wrote Willow Weep for Me. And then, of course, you have some blueses that Billie Holiday wrote, but those are lyrics. Later versions, Carla Bley had some songs in. At some point, I know on a later version, Carmen Lundy has some songs in. But, we're looking at hundreds of songs and very little representation.
Yeah. And it's powerful to create something new that brings more female composers to the front. And I watched your speech when you were accepting the Grammy, and you were saying that you are part of a new canon in jazz. And this new album, I think, is going to be the first in probably a series, right?
Well, we hope. Right now I'm working on the new social science album. But the idea is also to get other people to record this music. So I may function as a producer and, look at some other artists, to do it instead of myself.
Yeah, that sounds good. I want to talk to you about the Monterey Jazz Festival coming up and Music for Abolition and working with Angela Davis and Gina Dent. All of that is really really important to me, this Institute for Arts and Sciences here at the university that you're a part of, and the Visualizing Abolition project. Before we move on to that, I'd love to hear just a little more about this album, the New Standards album, and some of the people you worked with, like Brandy Younger, Anat Cohen, and some of the songs are just really moving and really wonderful. Respected Destroyer, I really liked, and Throw It Away. And some of the lyrics, like in Throw It Away, live your life each and every day. You will never lose a thing if it belongs to you. I really like that line. Would you just say a little bit about that album, how it came together, and some of the people that you work with on the album?
Well, I decided to record some music from the book, and I chose 11 songs from the book to highlight. And there's so many great songs in the book. It was not the easiest decision, but those were the ones I came up with. And so, of course, I went to the artists and let them know that I was recording their music, but some of them I rearranged, some a little bit, some a lot, some not at all. I was really proud of my arrangement on Moments, which was a Eliana Elias song. There was a little bit of arranging on Respected Destroyer, but not a lot, but there was definitely a few little changes. I was also really proud of my arrangement on Gretchen Parlato's song. Oh my God, my brain just went blank. What's the name of her song? Circling. And, the way I do things is I make the arrangement, do demos, and then decide who I think, might be a good guest artist. So that's kind of my process. When I wrote the lyric to Carla Bley's classic song, Lawns, I felt like Samara Joy would be perfect for it. And that also it would be something a little different for her from what I had been hearing, which I think it was. And that really came out great. One of my favorite tracks on the record. Throw It Away, I arranged that to have an African flavor. So Somi was the first person I thought of, and I thought it would be great as a duet. So Melanie Charles is singing that with her. But the lyric that you mentioned is a beautiful lyric, a classic lyric from Abby Lincoln. And she was a master storyteller and songwriter. So definitely wanted to include one of her pieces, and that's probably one of her most famous pieces.
to help her stand with a gentle kind of motion as it moves across the land, and the hands unclenched and open, gifts of life and love it brings. So keep your hand wide open if you're needing anything.
Possessing and belonging to, acknowledging a name.
So keep your hands wide open if you need love today, 'cause you can never lose a thing if you throw it all away.
Every day, and keep your hands wide open, let the sun shine through, 'cause you can never lose a thing if it belongs to you.
It's really nice, and I love African tribal music and African rhythms, and that song opens, it sounds almost like maybe a anthropological recording in a village. I'm not sure.
It is,
That was,
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what it is.
yeah, it sounds great. I love it. And then the rhythm picks up, and it's really nice. Your drumming is just great. I really enjoy listening to what you're doing on the drums.
Oh, thank you. Thanks very much.
How
I
would
mean,
you?
it's funny because, the older we get, drummers, you really have to stay up, on this instrument. You have to practice. And I do so many things that I don't get a chance to practice as much as I should, for sure. And I've never been a great practicer, never really been in the habit of practicing. So, yeah, but I can, like, work out through my arrangements and, the things that I write and arrange. It's kind of tailor-made for me. So it works out, especially on my records. But I'm just laughing because at this stage in my career, this was the first year that I won Drummer of the Year for the Downbeat Critics Poll. And I felt like maybe this album had something to do with it. But it's, kind of ironic because my technique is not like it was 20 years ago, but that's okay.
It is a really physical activity.
Yeah, I mean, it's physical for sure, but it's also, certain technique that you have to have with your wrists and fingers that has to stay mobile, and
Hmm.
moving.
Hmm.
Yeah, so,
I've played drums since I was a little kid, and mostly rock and roll type drumming. And I keep trying to loosen up to be able to play more jazzy. And I think a key is looseness and flexibility.
mm, yeah, and that doesn't just stay with you. You have to keep um, oiling the machine, so to say.
Hmm. On the website for the Institute for Arts and Sciences at the University of California, Santa Cruz, about the Music for Abolition project, it says that Music for Abolition is the soundtrack for and heartbeat to the shared struggle for a future in which prisons, policing, and racial violence are things of the past. This is so important to me and to so many people to move away from punishment, a punishment system that involves prisons and policing and racial violence, and create something new in our culture where we don't rely on that and we can create systems for safety that actually work for everyone. I
Mm.
I brought my attention to this for many years, and I'm so glad that the university is doing that. And of course, Angela Davis has been doing that for years, and Gina Dent, and those two women you've collaborated with a lot. And you're going to do an event, a couple things at the Monterey Jazz Festival this year, and one is a discussion about music for abolition
Mhm.
with Angela Davis and Gina Dent, and then you're also performing with your band. Tell me about both of those things, and bringing. I really admire and appreciate that you use your music to bring forth ideas about abolition. So tell me about these two things coming up at Monterey Jazz Festival.
Okay. Well, the abolition panel discussion is based on the videos we created during the pandemic, um, music for abolition videos that were part of a distributed symposium throughout the year um, that the UCSC did with visualizing abolition. And this was headed by Rachel Nelson and Gina Dent. And Gina asked me if I would put some music together, and I thought it would be a great project through the pandemic. So I curated all of these videos where it was new original pieces uh, done just for this series. So there's a lot of amazing artists involved. Christian Scott, Cecile McLaurin Salvant, Diane Reeves, Orrin Evans and Eric Reeves, Cora Coleman and Maimuna Youssef, aka Mumu Fresh, Jose James, Elena Penderhughes and Samora Penderhughes, Lisa Fisher, my band Social Science, Chris Davis. It's hard to remember everybody. Malcolm Jamal Warner. See, I'm going off the top of my brain, but a lot of amazing artists. So what we're going to do at the panel event is show parts of the videos and talk about the process, about the concept, um, and about why abolition is important. So I can't wait for that. And music has a way of of bringing these issues to the forefront with people um, in a very special way. It's different than just talking about the issues. And that's, I think, what our band Social Science has been trying to do with our first album. And now that we're working on our second album, and one of the songs from our second album, the first song that we created for the album was for this series, and it's called Abolition Song. So that's what the panel discussion is. And for the performance, it's a version of New Standards. And the beautiful thing about New Standards is I can use different musicians and play different material. It doesn't have to be the material from the album. It can be anything from the book. And at the end of the day, we're really celebrating women composers. So this show will be a core band of myself, Linda Mahon Oak, Chris Davis, and Mary Halverson. We played together once briefly for Winter Jazz Festival this past year. And right after we did that, I thought this would be a great band for Monterey. So that's what we're doing. And Diane Reeves is going to sit in with us, and Lakeisha Benjamin, and maybe one or two others.
You're listening to K-Squid 90.7 FM, KSQD Santa Cruz, and KSQT Prunedale. My name is John Malkin. You're listening to an interview with jazz drummer Terri Lyne Carrington. She'll be performing at the Monterey Jazz Festival on Sunday, September 24th. Later that day, she'll be at the Pacific Jazz Cafe in a panel discussion on the abolition of police and prisons with Angela Davis and Gina Dent. Here again is Terri Lyne Carrington. I was at the Institute for Art and Sciences gallery, the new gallery that's so beautiful on the other side of town. On June 8th, you did a wonderful little concert that was so beautiful. These two flute players were amazing, and everyone actually was amazing. And then some of the audio that was part of the compositions, they were recordings of interviews with people that are in prison. And this was so powerful to hear them directly in this music. Partly what I heard one of them saying was a lot of the work that needs to be done is to create community outside of prison that supports people and families so that we have a new structure where prisons aren't the place people are ending up. It was very powerful and beautiful concert.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I had a great time putting that concert together. It was a lot of music, a lot of material to try to pull off live, because a lot of that music was what we did in the videos. So it's kind of a live version of the videos. The two flute players were Elena Pinderhughes and Nicole Mitchell. And that's one of the names I forgot to mention when I was listing people. Nicole Mitchell is amazing. And she's the one that had the video interviews of the people that are incarcerated.
Mm-hmm. 3 years ago, when the pandemic was really starting, and then George Floyd was killed, and there were huge protests, and I have never heard so many people around the world saying we need to change how policing works. And a lot of people were saying we need to end policing. There were calls to defund or abolish the police. I feel a little disappointed that movement has dissipated somewhat. And I suppose it reminds me that social change movements ebb and flow. But I even now I'm hearing people like leftist people say, the call to abolish prisons and police was a little extreme. And we didn't really mean get rid of police. We meant change policing. There's always this tension between reform and revolution, I suppose, is one way of putting it. I don't know what you are thinking about all of that, the movement dissipating somewhat, the energy of that, and the notion, the possibility, which I hold, I envision a world without police and prisons. I don't know what you think about these things.
Well, I think it's important to envision it because it will never happen if it's not envisioned. And there's no great reason that we shouldn't envision that. There's a lot of investment on why people don't want people to envision that. You know, a lot of people are invested in not having people not having that vision. And of course, you know, there's the for-profit aspect of prison systems. But I think it's really simple to wrap your brain around, because it was very difficult for me to wrap my brain around it, because we have been programmed to believe that there are bad people in the world and we need this entity to protect us from it. But when we look at it good, you know, a lot of good people are afraid, you know, scared, not safe from this entity that's supposed to protect us. And also, when we look at the reasons that crime happens, you know, the idea is to, of course, fix those things and look at it systemically and structurally, opposed to putting this police band-aid on everything. And until we look at the root source of the problem, this police band-aid will remain not only in place, but out of control. And to me, the concept is simple. If everyone has what they need in the world, then we would be shocked at how much crime doesn't happen. And if we take mental illness seriously, you know, we would be shocked as well. So, you know, from healthcare to education, you know, just equity in all these different areas. If we really truly had that, then we wouldn't really need this system as it stands.
Hmm. I agree. Yeah, poverty is created, and policing largely is protecting some people's wealth and property from other people. And that's been the tradition of policing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I always think about the spiritual side of things too, that we're all trying to have good lives and deal with suffering that happens in our lives. And there's internal liberation, and then there's social system liberation. I imagine you think about things on that level sometimes too, and I'd love to hear if you have any thoughts about how music and this effort to change these large social systems, how they have some connection to spirituality or anything in that realm. And I like to remember when there are victories in the direction of liberation or ending prisons and policing. And although it's kind of a small thing, I was reminded, looking again at the website for the Institute for Arts and Sciences, there's a section where it says, former California Governor Ronald Reagan once vowed that Angela Davis would never again teach in the University of California system. And today, she is Professor Emerita in History of Consciousness and Feminist Studies at UCSC. So I don't know, the people in power change, but the structures are hard to change. And in the meantime, voices of people moving towards liberation can be heard here and there. And those are the people I take my energy from. And I feel generally optimistic. Oddly, there's a lot that points to negative things happening on our planet now, for sure. But I have hope in people because I meet so many wonderful people working towards liberation and people who are enjoying their lives too. That's kind of critical. People who are connecting with themselves and others and nature and so on. So I wonder, Terri, where your energy comes from and if there is a spiritual practices you do, or if spirituality plays a role in your music and your projects.
Sure, because it's all connected. There's no separation for me. It's the part of me that connects to humanity in general. That's a spiritual place, and that's also when people say spirituality, they think sometimes that that's not an active place, and they think social political work is active. But to me, it's all connected, because if you believe that you're part of this grand picture, and it's sort of one family, the human race, there's some kind of spiritual connection with a belief like that. And that's the same belief that makes you support and fight for your brother or sister or sibling. So I feel like this whole kind of like disconnection between church and state is kind of always been something that doesn't make sense to me. So I think once I personally decided to, put my beliefs first and let the art support that, I've been moving more in a direction that has to do with accomplishing a mission that I believe that I was put here to do. So that is all spiritual, and it's also being socially aware. I don't particularly, use the term activist, but pretty much everything I do has that mindedness. And I just want to leave the world, or make my contribution to the world, something I can be proud of and make it meaningful. And I think we're all hoping that things evolve and the world is left better in some way, in some small way, than it was when we're not in this realm of existence anymore. And that's what doing that kind of work does. So I think it's just people have different levels of evolution. And some people that are motivated by greed and motivated by power and thinking just about themselves, I just look at it as they haven't evolved yet to think differently about saving the planet and contributing to society and bettering humanity.
I'm really delighted to hear you say that this notion of separating the church and state has never made sense to you. I feel the same, but on the left in political activism, there's this tradition of, I suppose, it does make sense. If there's an authoritarian church that is influencing political structures, that's not so good. And the other way around too, if there's authoritarian politics influencing spirituality, that's not so good either. But this notion of saying the way we run our social systems shouldn't be influenced by spirituality or by people's impulse towards liberation and freedom and interdependence and all of that. Where then does our knowledge really come from then, if it's not from those things? That's always seemed odd to me too, and kind of a bad setup for
Yeah.
for what will come after that. I even a long time ago, I did an interview with Howard Zinn, and he had a play about Karl Marx, and it's like a one-person play where Marx comes back to New York in modern times and talks with the audience. And in this play, he's mentioning how this famous quote of his, of Marx, that religion is the opiate of the masses, that actually, if you read the whole quote, part of the rest of it is something like religion is the soul of soulless conditions. He's I started understanding it to mean actually religion is quite important and useful, sort of the opposite of what the left has made that quote out to be. Anyway, I appreciate you bringing that up because very few people say that out loud, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm thinking about spirituality, which is how we talked about it, not necessarily religion, because, we all see what has happened with religion. It becomes, um, just as problematic as many other things in the hands of the wrong people. People use it for power and for money and for all the other, negative things under the umbrella or guise of religion. But spirituality is different. And I think that's more of what I was talking about, though it is the foundation. It's supposed to be the foundation of religion. But religion as we know it should not get involved because so much of it is radical and so much of it is, I don't know, people are led blindly and it's power driven by the people that are in control or power. So I don't believe that religion itself needs to be involved with things like school or just however those separations came about. I understand it, but spirituality is a different thing. And when I think of that, I think of life philosophy. I don't even use the term religion, but I practice Buddhism, and Buddhism is a life philosophy. And I just feel like all religions have a similar base philosophically, and of course they all have their differences, but we all know innately, I believe, what's right and what's wrong. And if we just start there, then it connects all of us. And there's I think, a spirituality that connects all of us. And that's really what I was referring to.
Yeah, and I understand that, and I am completely on the same page. And I have practiced Buddhist practices for most of my life, and that makes most sense to me. And meditation has been really beautiful for my life. And I view these realms as spiritual and not religious also. And I agree. All these religions at the base are teaching be kind to other people, especially people you disagree with. And it is perplexing that on top of that loving notion get built wars. It's that's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
You're listening to K-Squid 90.7 FM, KSQD Santa Cruz, and KSQT Prunedale. My name is John Malkin. You've been listening to an interview with Terri Lyne Carrington. Her latest album, New Standards Volume 1, received the 2023 Grammy for Best Instrumental Jazz Album. Terri Lyne Carrington will be performing at the Monterey Jazz Festival on Sunday, September 24th. Later that day, she'll be at the Pacific Jazz Cafe in a panel discussion on the abolition of police and prisons with Angela Davis and Gina Dent. Carrington works closely with Davis and Dent as curator for the Music for Abolition project of the UCSC Institute for the Arts and Sciences. The acclaimed drummer is also founder and artistic director of the Berklee Institute of Jazz and Gender Justice.
somebody listening, whoever you are, who's listening, I know that I don't know you, but I know that in order to listen to this chat we're having right now, you had to live. And in order to live, you must have suffered. And I want you, whoever you are, whatever you're up to right now, I would like you to know that I admire you for living. And I know that it's tricky sometimes. And this world wouldn't be what this world is if you weren't exactly who you are. And I love this world, and I love that you're alive.
K squared, K squared, K squared on 90.7 FM. With John Malkin at the controls. This is Robin Hitchcock telling you this.